Sunday marks China's Chongyang Festival, also known as the Day for Elders, where Chinese families visit their ancestors' graves and elder relatives. It's a day to remind people of their traditional family ties, of filial piety, but the fast-growing elderly population poses big challenges for the Chinese society. And we often hear about the empty nest situation, seniors who live far away from their children or do not have any children or a spouse. And for more on that, I'm joined in the studio by our reporter Feng Xing. So Feng Xing, first of all, tell us how challenging the situation is right now.
Well, Pan Deng, I would say the problem is quite severe indeed. The latest official numbers show that people over 60 years old account for 15% of China's population. And by international conventions, countries that have a population that is 10% senior can be considered as an aged societies. And obviously, China has surpassed this threshold. The problem will intensify. This is not only because China's elderly population is growing 3 times faster than the average population, but those who live in a so-called empty nest will become more and more widespread. After 3 decades of the one-child policy, Chinese families have become smaller and smaller and more like a 4+2+1 family structure. This means in a typical family, there will be 4 seniors, 2 adults, and a single child. And as China allows for more migration between regions, it's already quite normal for parents and their only child not to live in the same city. And even if they do, the young adults are left with the choice of staying with their biological parents or their parents-in-law after getting married. This inevitably leaves one side of the parents in an empty net situation. So caring for seniors can be very challenging. But recently, I visited a community here in Beijing and saw how 20 households have found a special way to look out for elderly residents, especially those living alone. Let's take a look. Blinds carry a secret code that's only shared between 79-year-old Sun Yufen and her neighbor.
We keep an eye on each other's windows regularly. If the blinds remain closed down, it signals that something's gone wrong, because we might get too sick to even make a phone call. We'll come to knock on each other's doors. If nobody responds, we'll then get our neighborhood committee.
Sun and her husband still manage to do some light housework. Their children can't visit them all the time. But 80-year-old Su Guiru has been living on her own since her husband passed away several years ago.
We work in pairs. She keeps me on her mind and comes to check on me often. And I do the same. There is a bond between us. It gives me peace of mind knowing somebody cares about me.
The idea of a curtain pact originated from 2 families who supported each other for more than 2 decades in a neighboring community. When the idea was introduced to this neighborhood by social workers, residents worked out their own curtain codes. Mrs. Han, 72, has suffered from a leg illness for a long time. Whenever she puts her blinds down halfway, her paired neighbor, Mr. Liu, will help by bringing groceries to her apartment. 10 pairs of families in this community have made their curtain pacts, but they are only a very small fraction of the seniors who live without any carers. Social workers have told me that there are about 2,000 seniors living in this community. 1/5 of them are what many call empty nest seniors.
The curtain pact is only a formality. What we hope to achieve is establishing a platform for volunteers and seniors to communicate with and help each other. We hope to get more residents to take part.
Xu Yu says they're hoping to double the number of families who join the curtain pact in the coming year.
Well, Feng Xing, the way you reported, the way of these elders and volunteers getting connected, you've reported in your story, I would say it's quite traditional and subtle. But what about, is that the only way is there any other ways? What about technology?
Absolutely, Pan Zheng. The use of smart technology is definitely becoming a trend in elderly care. For example, in the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou, robots have been used in some nursing homes to monitor elderly people's health, making video calls and assisting nurses with their work. And in the central city of Luoyang, smart sticks can help family members or care workers to locate a senior's whereabouts with GPS technology. And if the senior falls down, he or she can press an emergency button to call for help. Although technology and services are growing fast in the elderly care industry, they're actually not as easy for seniors to use as many of us might think. I asked quite a few seniors and social workers why they chose old-fashioned ways to communicate with each other, and they said, when you get old or sick, even reading the screen, pressing the button, or even talking becomes quite challenging. The digital divide is much wider than many of us can imagine. And what struck me the most was that all my interviewees emphasized that their curtain pact is just a formality. It's the emotional support and company that works the most. That's for me, Pan Deng.
Very touching story. Thank you very much. Our reporter Feng Xing there.